I plan to do this live and I don't know what's going on, but we're just gonna do it this way because my laptop is not doing what it's supposed to do. So, welcome to the More Than a Mom workshop, and I want this to be really casual. This is not like a whole big presentation. It's not that kind of thing. I just want to talk to you mom to mom and let you know about some of the tips and some of the strategies that I have been using to navigate this whole mom thing, right? So when we think about mom, and it's so funny, I am in a group with Marsha and Evans Daniels, and we had a very long and wonderful chat this morning. And she was talking about Mother's Day cards and how Mother's Day cards always talk about sacrifice, right? And we think about mom and we think about what we value most about mom and what makes mom special to us. It's the sacrifices that she made, and we often identify with those sacrifices, and we feel that in order to be a great mom, we have to sacrifice. We just have to give, and we have to pour into others. And while that is true, a lot of us do it, but we don't pour back into ourselves. And that's the missing link to what I think is being a great mom, because being a great mom is also being a great example of womanhood and being a great example of what it looks like to love yourself and to care for yourself in a way that makes you able to love and care for others. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And so I looked up some definitions for mother because mom is our affectionate term for mother, right? So I looked up some definitions, and here's what I found. It says a woman in relation to her child or children, right, is a mother. It also means to bring up a child with care and affection, right? So that's just not the title mother, but that's actually the action of mothering, to give birth to something or someone. And an important female figure in the origin and early history of something or someone. And I'm going to read that again because that one really stood out to me. An important female figure in the origin and early history of something. And I wrote or someone because as a mother, you are an important female figure in the origin and early history of someone, your child. And how we show up as mothers is going to shape the history of our children. And that's something that really stood out to me. I remember, if you do not know this part of my story, I had an issue of blood for 10 years. So basically, I didn't have a normal period like most other women. I would have 1 to 2 to 3 weeks of bleeding. And there was a point where I felt like I might be dying and just not know what's wrong with me, because I had seen many doctors and no one was able to tell me what was wrong with me. And I had a moment where I sat and I said, if I died, what would happen to my children? What have I taught my children? What have I left for them to hold on to live with, to walk through life with, right? And I realized that I had been doing everything for everyone, and I wasn't doing anything for myself. And the legacy that I was leaving was that I would take care of everything and they didn't have to do anything. So I was not empowering my children. I was feeding my own need to be needed. I was feeding my own insecurities about feeling insignificant, because at the time I was a stay-at-home mom. I had given up my career to stay at home with my family, and I never really faced the fact that I wanted more. Like, I still wanted to do things outside of my home, and that I wasn't going after my dreams, even though I was encouraging my children to. And I needed to leave them with that example. Now, I'm not living my life for the day of my death to leave a certain legacy. That's not what I'm doing. I am living my life to the fullest that I know how, the fullest in my ability. And when I reach the end of myself, I know that God will do the rest. But that's the legacy that I want to leave for my girls and for my sons, that this is what womanhood looks like. And this is what your life could look like. Even for my son, to see his mother go after a dream and see his mother be the best woman she can be is gonna hopefully help him to be able to find a partner who doesn't necessarily look like me, but that he would value her womanhood, that he would value her as all of who she is, right? And not just the wife or just the mom. And I think that sometimes when we look at traditional roles, sometimes it doesn't leave room for you, right, inside of the role. So I want to talk about those things. And I know that I call it a workshop, and it is because I'm going to be asking questions. And so if you don't have a journal or you don't have a piece of paper, a few pieces of paper, because I'm going to go through 4 main topics, I suggest you get that now and that you start writing down these things as I talk to you. So I developed something for myself, really, that I call the A-list assignment. And what the A-list assignment is, it is a way to unlock your awareness, your authenticity, and abundance in your life. Because what can happen to us as we walk through life and we deal with different aspects of who we are, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, it could be in your church, it could be in your community, wherever it is, you might find yourself in an effort to fit in to that particular room that you're in, you might find yourself actually changing who you are depending on the room that you're in. And I believe that what is healthier for us to do is to show up as all of who we are, so that depending on the room that we are in, they will get different versions of us, but they won't get a fake version of us. Because if we're honest, we can put on a mask depending on where we are. And sometimes we even have to put on the motherhood mask. My son was having a meltdown literally minutes before I was supposed to go live. And then my laptop wouldn't let me go live. My phone wouldn't let me go live. So I was trying to figure out what was going on there and dealing with that, and in the middle of him having a meltdown. And the old me would have just left it alone. The old me would have dealt with him and come on here, but sometime later, and explain what happened. But he's gonna be okay. He's gonna be okay. His dad is here. I asked his dad to my husband. I asked my husband to take care of him, but he's a mommy's boy, so he had a little issue with that. But even that is a testament to showing up for yourself. So often as moms, what we do is we have goals, and then in an effort to make room for the family, in an effort to be there and do and be who the family needs us to be and do what the family needs us to do, we push things to the side. And I'm not saying that you forget your family, because you absolutely have to be there for your family. You absolutely have to do the things that need to be done. But if you keep doing it at the expense of yourself, and you keep doing it in an unhealthy way, it creates problems. So, the first thing that I want to talk to you about is that A-list assignment. So, what the A-list assignment is it is a way for you, as I said, to unlock your authenticity, your awareness, and abundance in your life. And the first thing in the A-list assignment is that you appreciate your attributes. And when I say appreciate your attributes, think of yourself as a mom. What is it that you bring to the table? What is it that you bring to the home as a mother? What is it specifically about you that makes you you? And celebrate those things, appreciate those things. What are the things that your family specifically likes about you, specifically enjoys about you being around, and appreciate those things. Now, the word appreciate has two meanings. Appreciate means that you cherish something, you hold it in high esteem. But appreciate also means that you develop that thing. So, whatever that thing is that they like about you, how can you develop that? How can you make that even better? And the things that you may feel that you are not doing that well as a mom, can you list those things and maybe invest in those things? What if, for example, you're great at doing birthday parties and the organizing things, but you're not that good of a cook, right? And you would love to be able to make amazing meals for your family. In appreciating your attributes, what you can do is invest some time in learning about cooking. And if you can't invest the time, you maybe, I know Rachel Ray years ago, she had a show on TV where she would cook meals in half an hour. Learn how to do things like that. Try doing different things to switch it up in your family. You see what I mean? Those are things that I am now implementing in my life because I think my family is bored with my cooking. I am bored with my cooking, especially after those 2 years of lockdown life. It's hard, you know? It was hard to. Ugh, my office is open. Sorry about that. It's hard to get out of a routine that has become a rut sometimes in our lives. So, appreciating your attributes and then also appreciating your attributes in terms of improving is what helps you to get out of that rut because it offers you a challenge, right? That you can now take so that you can do something new and you can do something exciting. And for some of us, I say us because this has happened to me, motherhood can become a chore and it can also feel like it's limiting you. And it shouldn't feel like that. It is an amazing and wonderful blessing to be able to bring life into the world, to be able to care for your family, to be able to love your family in the way that they need to be loved. But understand that you also need that love as well. And I want to encourage you to be able to give that love to yourself. So I'm going to run through the A-list assignment really quickly because I have a video on this and later on I will link it in the description so that you can go and join the Vision Sequence free preview and you'll be able to walk through the entire A-list assignment, download the PDF and all that good stuff. So you appreciate your attributes. Affirm your value. Affirming your value to yourself and also being able to affirm your value to others and not feel that you are just a mom. Even if you work outside of the home, there sometimes can be this tendency to feel that we are less than the people that we serve, and we are not, right? So being able to affirm that value to yourself, being able to not seek validation, because sometimes, if we're honest, we seek validation from our spouses, we seek validation from our children, we seek validation from the PTA, we seek validation from other moms to tell us that, oh yeah, you're doing a great job. And while that is good to hear, it is very important for us to know who we are without the applause, right? Before anyone says, yeah, mom, you're doing a great job. Yeah, you're a great mom. Before anyone says that, to know within yourself that you are putting your best effort forward. And We don't often take time to stop and do that for ourselves. And that's why it can sometimes feel like we are not appreciated. But I want to encourage you to appreciate you, right? Appreciate you, love you, affirm you, and that's okay because we do it for our children all the time. We do it for our loved ones all the time. We tell them, you can do this. You're amazing. I love you so much. Do you say that to yourself? And no, it's not weird. It is absolutely necessary. It is absolutely necessary because as we pour into others, we need to be able to fill back up, right? And it's not that you're going to fill back up with mindless affirmations and, stuff that you heard here and there, but to really sit with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that I need to hear right now? What is it that I need to know right now? What needs to be true for me right now on this motherhood journey? What is it that I need? I'm a Christian, so for me, it's prayer, it's reading my Bible, it's speaking God's word over my life, understanding that this motherhood journey is a mission. It's not just something that happened. It is a mission and it's a responsibility, and it's something that I take very seriously. It's not my family is just walking all over the place while I'm doing this. So it is something that means a lot to me, but it's not all that there is to me, right? And I know if you're watching this that it's not all that there is to you either. So we appreciate your attributes, affirm your value, articulate your dreams. And articulating your dreams means saying what you want. It's not just about the goals that you've set for your life, the stuff that you have on your vision board. It's not just about that, but articulating your dream for that day, articulating your dream for that moment, articulating your dream for what you want motherhood to look like, articulating your dream for, okay, we're walking into the store, this is what is going to happen. Sometimes as mothers, we struggle to communicate just with our children, right? We struggle to communicate with our spouses and significant others. We struggle to communicate with other family members who may not agree with the way that we mother our children. That's something that's extremely important. So if you have a vision for your motherhood journey and you have a vision for what you want your family to look like, and it may not look like the way that other people in your family have raised their children, it may not have looked like the way that your parents raised you. Being able to articulate that clearly, even if your voice is shaking, because sometimes when we speak to people who are familiar to us, we're afraid to speak about the new thing that we want, right? We're afraid to set up a family that doesn't look like the family that we came from. And it's perfectly okay to do that. And it's perfectly okay for you to create your type of family unit. That's perfectly fine. It's perfectly acceptable, right? And you should do that because the time that you grew up in is not the time that we live in now. There is no way that I could parent the way that my parents parented me. We live in a completely different world. So I have to modify my motherhood to suit the world that we live in. And I have to be able to clearly articulate that, or my children are going to be lost if I'm not sure, right? So we articulate your dreams. The next thing is to act authentically. And this can be hard because we very often compare ourselves to other moms. We compare ourselves to other moms and we think, oh, she is such a great mom. She does all the lunches and they look so cute, and the fruits are color coordinated and everything is perfect and her house always looks amazing. My house is a mess right now. My house has been a mess for a while. And I will tell you, my house used to be perfectly clean and I used to be a mess. So I made a choice, and I am slowly coming back to a point where I am recreating my environment, and it's a beautiful thing. Right now, it doesn't look like a beautiful thing, but it's a beautiful thing. Sometimes we feel that we can't have both. And that's how I felt. I felt like I couldn't create what I needed to create within myself and create it in my space. But the truth is, I needed to create it in myself first. And what I was doing by being so obsessive about what my home looked like was avoiding the work that I needed to do as a woman and as a mom. And after I did that work, I was able to start to show up differently for my family. At the time, they may not have seen it that way, but this goes back to what I was saying about articulating the dream and being able to talk through those things and being able to express the things that you need to express, especially if you are married or you have a significant other or you are co-parenting. It is extremely important for you to be able to clearly articulate to yourself and to those who you are parenting with and to your children what this whole journey is going to look like for your family, right? So, this last one, act authentically. Don't compare yourself to another mom. Um, Babies know their mother's scent, they know their mother's voice, they know their mother's touch. Your children do not need you to look like another mom. Your children need you to be their mom. And in order to be the best mom that you can be for your children, you'll need to be the best woman that you can be for you. And when you bring the best of yourself to anything, everybody benefits, right? So then the last thing is access abundant life. And accessing abundant life is opening yourself up to the possibility of having an amazing life, having an amazing family, being happy, being actually happy in your skin, in your space, in your family, in your home. You know, just sometimes what happens is that we compare ourselves so much to other people that we don't know what we really want. We just know what looks good. And because the person on the social media feed or the YouTube video or whatever it is, they look so happy and everything looks so perfect, and we say, yeah, I want that. And that very well might be what we need. That very well might be what we really want. But if you don't sit with yourself to see what that really is, there's just always this fear of missing out or fear of being less than, and that's what I want to get us away from. So the first thing I want to talk about is I went through all of that, but that wasn't it. So we're saying that you are more than a mom, and the more is actually an acronym. So it stands for mindfulness, operations, rest, and exercise, right? And all of that I went through just now in the A-list assignment, that is mindfulness, right? You want to be a mindful mom. You don't want to be the type of mom who is just reacting and constantly putting out fires and constantly feeling burned out and trying to pour of the best of herself, but she barely has anything left, and falling asleep exhausted at the end of every night and waking up early the next day to give and to sacrifice and to do. It is very important to be mindful, and it's very important to pause long enough to be able to pour back into yourself. Now, I am a journaler. I'm a huge journaler. This is my journal. This is one of many, and this is where this whole workshop, this whole framework came about, because I started to think, what is it that I needed when I felt like I was burning out, when I felt like I could not mom anymore? What is it that I needed? And mindfulness was definitely top of the list because I was doing so much. It was hard for me to hear my own thoughts. It was hard for me to show up for myself because I was showing up for everybody else, and I was burning out and I was crashing. But I was still pulling myself together to get up and do it all over again the next day. And eventually, what started to happen, on top of dealing with this health issue that I was dealing with, on top of all the feelings that came with that, on top of all the uncertainty, on top of how it was testing my faith, because remember, you're more than a mom, right? And I was dealing with all this other stuff, but I still had to be mom. And that became more and more and more difficult. But the more mindful I got, the more I started to take care of myself. And when I say myself, I'm talking about my soul, my mind, my will, and my emotions. That's what your soul is. When I started taking care of that part of me, that's when things started to change. And that's when I was able to show up differently and show up more powerfully within myself and in my family. So, mindfulness. One of the things that I personally like doing is waking up before my family and just journaling, praying, meditating, talking to God, having that quiet time with myself. I don't always do all those things. Sometimes I do only one. Sometimes I just sit in silence and I just let myself breathe, right? Because when you jump out of bed and you jump right into mothering, it is a hard thing because you're already behind, right? You're already playing catch up to life. You're already feeling like, oh my gosh, it's already started, right? And we have this way where we will get up, and you may get up because the baby's crying, so you have to immediately act. And we get conditioned to keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that. And then what happens is you start to develop this way of just getting up and responding and reacting to life instead of actually being mindful about, this is the way that I want to approach my day. This is how I want my day to look. This is how I want my evenings to look. Does it mean that every single day is going to be like that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no day that I've had that has actually turned out exactly the way I want it to turn out. But when you start with a framework, you set yourself up for success. And when you start with a framework, you've automatically empowered yourself with a plan. So you approach your day completely differently than you would when you're just seeing what happens, right? And this can take 5 minutes. You can take 5 minutes, you can take 5 hours. It is up to you how much time you want to put into making that plan for your life, for your days, for your family. So that's mindfulness. One of the things that I like to do is, if you follow me on Instagram is where I'm active every single day. On social media, I would share something almost daily. It could be a quote, it could be some type of question, but I like to journal. And again, it doesn't have to take a long time. It could be 2 minutes. It could be asking yourself a simple question. I was in a moment of mindfulness a few days ago and actually posed 4 or 5 questions to myself, and I was able to sit with that, and I was able to come up with, I think it was about 5 pages of journaling, and it was around fears, right? It was around, what are the things that I am afraid of in my life? What are the things that I am afraid of happening? And it was such a beautiful release to be able to actually think through and deal with those fears and face those things in my own handwriting, right? So one of the things that I would encourage you to do today is to think about, what is it that you want your life to look like? What is it that you want motherhood to look like for you? What is your ideal motherhood journey? What is the type of relationship that you want to have with your children? What is the type of relationship that you want to have with your spouse or your significant other? What is the type of relationship that you want to have with your parents as it relates to your mothering? What are the questions that you want to ask? Maybe to older women, right? Maybe to your parents. What are the questions that you want to ask? And sit and have those conversations. I think those are extremely valuable conversations. We had a beautiful evening experience not too long ago with one of the older women from my church, and she sat with us and she talked about her motherhood journey, and she talked about being a young wife, and she talked about all these different things. Sharing those things and having those conversations is a beautiful thing, and that's something that you don't have to wait for. That's something that you can initiate, right? That will help you on your motherhood journey. So the next thing is operations. Operations is your routine. Every successful person has a routine, whether it's in business, whether it's in skincare, whether it's in fitness, whatever it is. Every success has some kind of routine, some kind of strategy behind it. So deciding what that looks like for you is extremely important. What is that gonna be? Like I was talking about, getting up early before my family. That's something that is in my routine. That's part of my operations. Caring for myself, having time for myself, pulling away, being alone. That's something that is extremely important as a part of my operations, because when I have that alone time, I set myself up to be centered, to be able to show up. So when my son, as I mentioned, my son's having a meltdown, I'm not melting down with him, because I've dealt with what I need to deal with in my private place, in my private space, in my alone time, so that I can approach him from a place of calm. When I talk about articulating my dreams, one of my dreams for my motherhood journey is to be a centered mother. One of my dreams for my motherhood journey is to exemplify, yes, exemplify what it looks like to have self-control, not self-denial, but self-control, to be able to handle a difficult situation with grace, without losing my cool and without losing my mind. I want to model that for my children, so that when they become mothers or fathers, or even if they don't, when they're in a situation that is challenging, they're in a situation where they feel like I cannot handle this, they still can pull themselves together. They still know who they are, because I've modeled that in my own life. To me, motherhood is not only about what I teach my children verbally by what I tell them, but also by the way that I live and what I do. And when it comes to the things that I am telling them to do, that I'm telling them would be good for them, that I'm telling them would be beneficial for them, if I'm not doing those things, then what I'm saying to them rather, is not going to hold any weight. Because despite our title as mothers, we lose our credibility if our walk doesn't match the talk, right? And children are watching. From the oldest to the youngest, children are watching. And if I tell them to do something, it has to be something that I'm doing, or it has to be something that is in alignment with my character, right? So operations is extremely important. I am a planner. I'm a planner by nature. It's something that comes easy to me because I like to see things organized. I like to know that I have a plan. I like to know that there is a sequence to things, um, which is interesting because the framework that I created is actually called the vision sequence. It's a way for creating vision boards and also planning your life in alignment with your vision. So when I think about not just my motherhood journey, but just my days in general, I need to have an operation manual. There is I can't remember her name, but the company is called Clean Mama, and she has downloadable sheets that you can use that will guide you through cleaning your home. It will guide you through decluttering, and you can create like a little home manual, which is something I did for my girls. I used to hang it up in the laundry room so that they could see how the rooms needed to be cleaned, when, which days, what rooms needed to be cleaned, and stuff like that. And that way that they could operate independently without constantly having to come and ask me what needed to be done. So that's something that you can implement into your life to help you operationally just be able to function, and it gets you into a routine. Then when you get into that kind of routine, now it becomes automatic, right? Your success now becomes inevitable in those little things that you don't want to think about. Meal planning is something that I'm going to be implementing very soon into my life because it's just going to make my life easier, right? And I want to be able to cook quickly. I want to be able to batch cook and to have a whole bunch of meals in the fridge where people could just heat and eat and keep it moving. That now frees up my time to be able to pursue things that I want to pursue. As my children are getting older, they need me less for those hands-on practical type things, and they need me more for mindset, for homework help, for talking about life. My girls are teenagers. My son is about to be 7, and we have two older ones who are adults that are out of the house. And I need to be able to structure my life in a way that is going to support my family. Now, in doing this, I had to pull back. I had to pull back from a lot of the things that I was doing, even within my home, because it wasn't making space for me to develop what I needed to develop. And it can be a bit of a dangerous curve. It can be a bit of a dangerous pivot. So I'm not going to say that I handled everything perfectly. In hindsight, this is what this came out of. This more framework in hindsight came out of this. Operations is extremely important. And when I talk about articulating your dreams within this operational structure, talking to your family, you know what, these are some changes that I want to make. This is what I really need you guys to do. Getting their feedback if they're old enough. Getting your spouse's feedback is extremely important. And just making sure that there is something in place, there is a routine in place that works not just for your family, but for you. So operations is twofold. There will be operations for you in terms of what your days will look like, right? And that includes very simple and practical things. What time are you going to get up? What are you going to do when you get up? What's your skincare going to look like? How are you wearing your hair? For instance, my hair is natural. Most of the time I wear my hair up. I don't do a bunch of fancy styles. I'm not styling my hair all the time. I am a low maintenance natural. One, because it is much healthier for my hair, and two, because I don't have time to be playing in my hair like that, right? So that's part of my operations. I wake up very early to get my children to school. I have a certain amount of time that is designated for work. I still have to cook. I still have to do laundry and do all of those things. I don't have a maid yet. I don't have a cook yet, but I am so open to those things. I am so open to having help within the home, and it's something that I would not have done before because my identity was attached to being the one who did everything. And that was a huge aha moment and a huge realization for me. As you walk through your motherhood journey and as you get more mindful, you will begin to see those types of things as well. And some of them may be jarring, some of them may be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that that's what I was thinking. I cannot believe that that's the way that I was. But it's a beautiful thing when you can get to that point because you benefit personally, you grow as a woman, you grow as a mother, and then your family benefits because they get a better version of you. They get a more aware and enlightened version of you. And that is just a beautiful thing. The next thing is something that I know that a lot of moms struggle with, and that is rest. That is rest. We try to do all the things and we try to be there for everybody, and we get up early and we stay up late and we do not get enough rest. But go back to what I was saying about what we teach our children by the way that we live our lives. If we don't get enough rest and if we run ourselves into the ground serving and doing and constantly being on the go, what we're actually teaching our children is how to burn out, right? What we're actually teaching our children is that you cannot stop. You must keep going. And persistence is one thing and burnout is another, right? And burnout is not something that I would ever recommend to anyone, let alone my child. So modeling that idea of rest, and this is something I do daily. I take time daily to go off by myself and just relax. And sometimes it's only for 5 minutes. It's not like I'm taking a nap every day. It could be 3 minutes. 3 minutes of silence, 3 minutes of just deep breathing, 3 minutes of just leaving the room, 3 minutes of stepping outside to get some air can make such a difference in your day. So rest doesn't have to look like sleep, although for some of us that is an essential part of it. Rest can be mental rest, right? Rest can be peace of mind. So creating pockets of time where you are not constantly putting out fires, where you are not constantly doing, where you are not constantly go, 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 go. Pockets of time where you are pulling back. Journaling can be a time of rest. I encourage you to do a brain dump, and I actually had a beautiful revelation today, was to do a heart dump. And I think that's what the other day was for me when I was writing down my fears. I was doing a heart dump. And at first, when everything started coming up, because once I started writing, everything started flowing, and I was asking myself very specific questions. So if you want me to do a video on this, I can. I was asking myself very specific questions, and my answers were very specific. And it was like, whoa, I'm scared about this. I'm scared about this. I'm scared about this. And I felt like I had done so much work in my personal development that I wasn't really scared of that much anymore, but it turns out that I am. And these are beautiful nuggets because I believe that once you have named a fear, it's like it takes it out of you, and it puts it, especially when you write it down and you are now looking at the fear in the face. So it's like the Israelites looking at the giants in the promised land, and they're like, oh, you. And at first they're intimidated by them, but then somebody speaks up and says, no, we could take them, right? And that's what happens when you write down what it is that you're feeling, when you write down what it is that you're facing. It now comes out of you, and it's no longer a part of you. It's no longer a part of your identity. It's a thing outside of yourself, and you can now speak to that thing and tell that thing what to do. So that mental rest and physical rest is extremely important. And the next thing is exercise. Now, I'm not just talking about physical exercise, that's part of it. Exercising your mind, stretching your mind, challenging yourself mentally. So this could look like reading. This can look like listening to podcasts. This can look like listening to me. This can look like watching documentaries. This can look like having discussions with other moms and not talking about children. Not talking about children. Have discussions where you don't talk about the children. You don't talk about what little Timmy and little Susie are doing and how well they're doing in school or potty training or whatever. Yes, we need to have those conversations, but we also need to have adult conversation where we are learning from each other, where we are growing, where we are developing as women. Because the more you grow, the more your family is going to grow. If the saying is true that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, if we are not equipping our hands, right? If we are not equipping our minds, if we are not growing personally, then what's going to happen to our children, right? So exercising your mind is extremely important, and that happens through education. It happens through conversation. It can happen in so many ways, and of course physical exercise. It doesn't have to look like Pilates. It doesn't have to look like strength training. It could literally look like me. My office faces the stairs. I go up and down these stairs constantly. I actually do not go out of my way to make things easier for myself physically, because the more I do physically, the more fit I can be. I do not have an exercise routine. A lot of people think that I do. I do not. That's something that I actually want to incorporate. There's a space right over there that I am developing right now. It's actually my dining room, but we don't have a dining table right now. So right now it's my gym, and that's where I'm going to be working out. I'm going to be doing something, nothing crazy. And that was actually a pop-up of my affirmations. So that I'm going to come back to that, but that's a little tip that I want to give you at the end. So exercise, do what works for you. It doesn't have to look like joining a gym. It doesn't have to look like what the other people are doing. Just do what works for you. If it means going for a walk, so you can actually incorporate mental rest and exercise. If you go for a walk, that's mental rest, right? You go for a walk, you can listen to podcasts, you can go for a prayer walk, you can just go to a park that you like and sit for a little while. You can make some laps, you can do whatever looks good for you. Okay, I'm gonna come back to that affirmation. So what happened just now was that, and I hope it didn't mess up this live, but what happened just now was that my 9 p.m. affirmation popped up on my phone. So what I do is I have affirmations that I've created for myself, And what I do is I put them in my phone as the label of my alarm. So at different periods throughout the day, these affirmations will pop up. I have affirmations and I have reminders. And they're not reminders about tasks, they are reminders about things that I need to know for myself to help get me through the day. I've reached the point where I probably could change them. I probably could take them off because I have really internalized those things. And some of them I actually need to change because I am moving through a different season now, and there are different things that I need to remind myself of. So let's go back to saying you're a good mom, you're doing your best. And if you know that you're doing your best, literally you could write that as an affirmation in your phone. Set an alarm. You're doing your best. You're a good mom. And what's funny is sometimes you said these things and then you forget it. You actually said it and forget it. So you're going through your day and then it's 2 p.m. and something crazy is happening, and then this thing pops up and it says, "You're a great mom. You're doing your best." And you're like, I really needed to hear that. But this time it's coming from you. And there's something different about when an affirmation comes from you versus when it comes from someone else. It's an empowering thing to be able to affirm yourself. It's an empowering thing to be able to see that, yes, you're a mom, and yes, that is an amazing blessing, but you are more than that. You are more than that. So pay attention to your mindfulness. Pay attention to your operations, your routine. Pay attention to your rest, and pay attention to your exercise, right? I hope this was helpful. If it was, tell me in the comments below, and I will talk to you very soon. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I'll be back with more. Stay well. Blessings.